One of my favorite lessons, lifelike objects made with a combination of shapes. Today you're going to find that we started with the square. We're going to do a three-dimensional square item. We moved to the rectangle. We're going to do a three-dimensional rectangle. We're then also going to do a circle, an oval, a triangle, of which takes on characteristics of a cylinder. So to get started, if you would turn it in your sketchbooks to page 23. Alrighty. On page 23, we are going to begin with a guideline for a triangular item. So our guideline is going to go like this. And I'm hoping you can see that. Whoops. Here's my guideline. And to do a triangle, we know then that we do a horizontal and a vertical line. So in making a T as a beginning guideline will be helpful. So our first shape we're going to encounter is the triangle. And in doing so, we want to determine a side here, and we want to find also that line over here. So taking your straight edge, I will try to pick, and this is just an arbitrary, I might widen that up just a little bit. But pick a line. And with your straight edge, you're going to measure to find where that falls. So I'm going to mark my middle. I'm going to slide it over right here to find out where this falls. Down at the bottom, I'm going to draw an upside down triangle. Now following the gentle smile, we're going to come in here and follow that gentle smile. If you think of each of these as rectangles, or maybe yours are square, if you take a pencil and you render some lead and you do it like a picture frame, like you put some lead individually in each one of those little rectangles, leaving a little white edge. Just some soft shading. In here, it gives you a chance to go over some of those little guidelines. that is my best attempt at making a textural look of a waffle cone. So I'm going to go in here and rub that slightly, just kind of melt my shading a bit. So now we've created a three-dimensional cylinder characteristics into a triangle. Let's now add the ice cream. So we're going to add a nice big, and usually when they're scooping it, it dips a little bit. They push into it. Notice in doing so, right at the corners, if we darken this really dark, it will give it the appearance that my ice cream is truly sitting in my cone. I'm going to erase that back frown line. Again, I'm just going to do a little bit of darkening my lines so you can see. I think my guidelines are fairly dark so you could see them, but then I can't get rid of them. So I've got my waffle cone. Whoops, getting a little wild here. Have to draw with my eraser when I get a little wild. So I now have this great scoop of ice cream. But you know, I'm not settling for one scoop of ice cream in this waffle cone. I'm going to go for another oval. I'm even going to add another one. Now I'm going to begin to shade it so that it appears like ice cream. Because it is an oval in shape, my shade lines are going to curve. And again, when you have a large area, so I'm going to make this a chocolate chip mint. So I'll put some little chips in here. My second scoop of ice cream, I think, is just going to be chocolate. So it's going to be a darker shade. Again, I want to use my lead to go in the direction of my object because it just helps the appearance, the illusion. So I've shaded it a darker color. I don't want to make it appear outlined, but again, I want my shade to create my line. Now I'm going to make this one maybe just slightly lighter in shade. I'm going to put a little shine on my cone here. A subtle shine. My cone is even going to have some little sauce on it dripping. And because I want kind of a circular object, I'm going to even adorn it with this fabulous cherry that is in my cone, or on my cone. But again, I have to tuck it on my cone, and that's going to be my round object. So I need to put a little stem, very small. So just to decorate it up in a fun way. So I have a triangle made into a cylinder. I have an oval, actually I have three. I have a circle. So that's 1, 2, 3. I have left to put in a square. So my square is going to be like we were in a 50s diner shop. And it will be as in the 50s when they used to have a block with a wire that came up that held the cone if you were at a soda shop. So I'm going to now do a small block and make it three-dimensional that will then have a wire that comes up and holds my cone. First of all, before I draw the three-dimensional block at the bottom, I'm going to put the wire, just so I get it right in the middle. So I want to come right up through here, right to about here. So I'm going to lay my straight edge, and I want to draw a very, probably because my cone has got some pretty dark shades on it, I'm going to need to double this wire. And now the wire will go follow the smile of my cylinder. And it's going to come around the cone. And to make it look like the cone is sitting in the wire, it'll be really important that you So to show you this portion, I have a wire coming down through here. It's very dark. I then have a wire that comes around here. and it is holding my cone. Now I'm going to put the base on. So my base is going to be a square that's three-dimensional. And I'm going to pencil it in so you can see where we're going with it. It's a square that goes like this. These two lines are parallel. I will use my straight edge in a moment. These two lines are parallel. And if I want to make it three-dimensional, I will do this with it. So, to make it look more accurate, I'm going to use my straight edge. So, here's my straight edge. I'm going to slide it up. There's my straight edge. Those are parallel. Hopefully those are parallel. And now to make it three-dimensional, again, a little straight line here, a little straight there, a little straight here. And this little guy here, the little wire, sits in this base right here. Almost like candles you put on a cake. It's drilled in hole right there. I will then take my dirty blender stick, blend there. Blend here. So at this point, I have a great waffle cone in an old-fashioned cone holder, but I have yet to do a rectangle. So in the back of my picture here, I'm going to do a rectangle that's three-dimensional. So I'm going to lay my straight edge. I'm going to trace over 3 lines of my straight edge and make a sign. So to make my sign three-dimensional, I need to go here, here. I'm not going to see this because that's behind the cone. And it's a nice wooden sign hanging on the wall. I'm going to shade in. And of course, I need to put some guidelines. I'm going to put some, I may want to lay my edge there. So my lettering is somewhat straight. These are guidelines, so sketch lightly. And I'm going to write, you know what? I'm going to put one more guideline right up here. And I'm going to write the word ice cream. But ice cream would start over here, so I'm going to have to go backwards. So I'm going to have to go very lightly So pencil in very lightly, using some guidelines, what you would see of the word or the words, and a price. Once you have the wording where you want it, of course, go in, thicken it up, fancy it, whatever you want. Erase your guidelines. Put some shading in here, or should I say put some lead in there so you can shade. Move it around with your blender stick. And you can get far fancier than I did with a sign. But now I've got to hang my sign on a chain. So imagine that my sign were going to be larger. Where would the chain go? So the chain would probably come right up here. And go here. So I'm going to do kind of went right on into my cherry stem. I'm going to change that just a little bit. And you now have a lifelike object made with a combination of many shapes. So going through the shapes again, we have our first shape we started with was the square, the rectangle, the cylinder, the ovals, the circle, and a triangular form.